Breathing in for a count of 4. And breathing out for a count of 8 or close to 8. And then allow that breathing technique to fall away and notice your breath as you breathe naturally. Allow your shoulders to relax down your back, your jaw to soften. And bring one hand to your heart or chest area and one hand to your lower belly. And take a moment to feel the connection of your hands on your body. The realization that you are here now, that you have arrived in this moment to practice mindful movement. And take a moment to set your own kavanah, your own intention for what you would like to cultivate in this class, not just physically, but why are you here? What else are you serving or supporting? Good. Let's come to hands and knees. And just start to move the spine through cat and cow. Always knowing you can bring your knuckles to the floor instead of the palms if that works better for you. And just starting to round the back and arch the back as you breathe. Usually we exhale as we round the back. You could go ahead and do that and pull the belly in. But then when you're in your arch, your rounded back, try taking an inhale. It'll feel a little limited, but it helps to stretch the spine and the muscles of this around the spine. And then exhale, relax. And let the belly button drop and the sits bones rise up behind you. Take a breath here. And then exhale, rounding the spine. And then pausing in your round and taking an extra breath there. Letting those shoulder blades spread apart. And then exhale, relax. Good. Let's open the knees up really wide, really wide, and sit back into a child's pose. So just starting to get into the hips a bit. Noticing how the hips feel. And then rather than just hanging out here, just start to wiggle your hips from side to side. Just rocking gently as if you could start to bring the pelvic or the pubic bone closer to the floor. Just side to side breathing. Good, and then come on up to all fours. Bring your knees back under your hips, and we'll thread the needle. So scooping the left arm under the right, and bring the side of your head to the floor, and reach your right arm out in front of you, and breathe here. Well, I'm glad we managed to find our way to each other. I'm happy that some of you were able to wait so we could connect. I will save my very special focused class for next week, which actually is not canceled. Very important announcement. So we are not canceled for next week. So tune in next Tuesday, the 26th. Go ahead and bring your hand back up and then change sides. Bring that right arm under the left and then extend the left arm out in front of you. Getting nice little rotation in the upper thoracic spine between the shoulder blades. Good. Press yourself back up. And then walk your hands out in front of you and leave your butt in the air, but bring your chest and your forehead back down toward the floor. And really stretch your arms, straighten them as much as you can. And take a few breaths here, stretching the armpit area, the muscles all around the shoulder girdle, the diaphragm. Good. And then come on up to all fours. So we're going to build some heat in the hips before we stretch them even more. Excuse me. So we're on all fours. Go ahead and lift your right knee out to the side, like a fire hydrant pose. So lift that knee and flex the foot and just start to make circles in one direction. So you'll want to keep your belly really engaged here. Pull the navel in and make those circles as big as you can without sacrificing the back. So if you're really arching that lower back, just make the circle smaller. And then reverse and see if you can build up some heat in that hip. I know I am. Good. And then extend the leg behind you so those right toes come to the mat. And you're still supporting yourself on your hands or fingers or knuckles. Now keep your right foot flexed and just little pulses. Just lift the leg. It's not going to go higher than your buttocks. So you want to, because you want to keep your lower back flat. So you're going to lift and lower, tap the floor. Lift and lower, lift and lower. Keep your belly engaged, belly engaged. Couple more. Good. And then release. And then just do a couple cat-cows to release the back. And maybe some side bending, some circles. And then we'll take the second side. So this time we'll lift the left knee in our fire hydrant pose and do some circles, keeping the abdominals pulled in. Making those circles nice and big and keep breathing. And then reverse. Notice the heat in the hip. And then pause and stretch the leg out behind you so the toes are on the floor. And then pull the belly in and just lift the leg. It will probably only go about 4 or 5 inches. Lift, you're going to feel your gluteal muscles engaging. And tap the floor and lift. And just keep pulsing that movement. Couple more. And release. Go ahead and come back to your wide knee child's pose. So those toes might be together and the knees are really wide outside of your mat, possibly, and extend your arms forward. And with every exhale, letting go of any tension in the body, even imagining the contents of your mind just pouring out of your head. Any clutter that you don't need, letting it go. Okay, so press yourself back up. Steve, you're gonna probably wish you didn't ask for hips today, but I'm doing this because I love all of you. So we're gonna do a frog pose. So the alignment for frog pose is really important. So I guess I'll go, I think the best way to see me is to go sideways. So if you're on a hard floor, when you go sideways, you're going to want to make sure that you have the padding under your knees. So make sure that you, as your knees open, the mat's underneath them. So we're going to walk the knees out as wide as they'll go, as wide as they'll go. And then make your ankle line up with your knee, so that if your feet aren't close to each other, they're actually spread out as well, so that your whole leg is in right angles. So the hip shoots out to the knee is over the ankle, and then the feet are even flexed. I think maybe I could change the angle of this so you can see. So I'm really, really low. I'm going to be on my forearms, but if your hips are tight, you can be on your hands with or a block underneath you. So I'm walking those knees out really, really far, and then I'm putting everything in right angles. So be gentle with yourself. This is a really deep stretch. The other thing you want to do is watch out for the lower back sagging. So you want to really engage the belly. Think of a string attached to your lower back, and it's just pulling you up just a little bit, inflating the kidney area. And then wherever your arms are, see if you can release any tension in the shoulders. And breathe. That's the most important part. Keep the belly engaged. Now you can stay right where you are, or you can create a little micro movement, rocking very slowly forward and back. As you move back, you might feel the hip stretch become more intense. Getting deep into those adductors, the inner thigh muscles. Press the ground away from you with your arms or your elbows, whatever's on the floor. Spread the space between your shoulder blades on your back, and keep imagining that string lifting your lower back up just a little bit, even as you sink into the hips. Whew, let's take 3 more breaths here. I know we've done this in person in class, and it's been a while. So to come out of it, what I like to do is just walk my hands forward and just plop my hips on the floor. Just lay down on your belly and then slowly bring your legs together. If you have another way to come out of it that's less painful, go for it. So now we're laying on our tummies, and make sure you're on your mat. Just rock your hips from side to side, and then bend your knees and just crisscross the ankles, or wave the legs from side to side, release any tension in those hips. Very nice. And then we'll energize ourselves with a little back bend here. So laying flat on the floor with your tops of your feet on the floor. The feet will stay on the floor. I'm going to have you reach your hands behind you this morning with your palms on the floor, forehead on the floor as well. So pull your navel up and in. Slide your shoulders down your back like you're reaching for your feet with your hands. Good. You're going to keep your forehead on the floor and then lift one leg and lower it down. And then lift the other leg, reach it long and lower it down. Good. Suck the belly button in again and try lifting both legs up. So they don't have to go high. Lift them up, but squeeze the inner thighs toward each other. Should be a lot of heat in the lower body here. And breathe. And then lower down. So we're going to leave the lower body down on the floor, firm legs, and we'll now lift the forehead off the floor, the chest, and looking down at the mat so the neck stays long. Lift the hands off the floor as if you're reaching back for your ankles. Good, and lower down. So decide if you'd like to do one of those, like the legs or the upper body, or if you'd like to combine both. Whatever you do, suck your belly in first and firm everything up. And then as you inhale, lift up, keeping the shoulders down away from the ears, keeping the inner thighs squeezing in toward each other. And breathe. Good, and lower down. Very nice. So go ahead and press yourself up. Take your time, press yourself up. And take a child's pose this time with your knees close together, which will create a little more rounding in the lower back. And breathe here. Okay, we're going to come to seated with the feet out in front. And if you're facing, are you long on the mat? Like if you, like my feet aren't on the mat, but if you're sitting on the mat and it's the lengthways, you're going to bring your feet to the outer edges of your mat. If you're not, it's fine. Just kind of guess. So we're going to stay with our weight in the arms, but without sinking into that. Feet are wide. And then just drop just the right knee, just as much as it'll go. And keep the left knee where it is. And then lift the right knee and then drop the left knee. So we're doing some internal rotation here with the hips. Nice and slow, going side to side. Couple more. Very nice. And now bring your feet together. So here's where you might have blocks if you want to prop your knees up. Otherwise, you're going to just hold on to your ankles or your shins and make this an active pose. When I say that, I mean that we are going to pull ourselves forward with our backs flat, hinging at the hip crease until we find our edge. Pull the belly in and breathe. Shoulders down the back. Soften your jaw and your face. Now you can take your hands and walk them out in front of you if that works for you. And perhaps walk them over to the left a little bit while still keeping your right buns on the floor. And see if you can get a nice side body lower back stretch as you reach over to the left and you root down in that right hip area. So keeping the belly pulled in. And then walk the hands over to the right side, rooting down in that left hip area. Good, and walking back to center, and then press yourself up with your hands. Very nice. Let's do our psoas stretch, a more passive stretch now, which might be kind of nice after all that really active deep stretch. So go ahead and lay on the floor with your knees bent. And before you use the block, just start to do a little pelvic tilting. So the feet are close to the butt, knees are hip width apart, and just rocking the pelvis forward and back, just releasing any tension in there. Inhaling as you do a little arch, and exhaling as you press your lower back into the floor. Good. Okay, now rest. And take your block, and you're going to slide it into your hips, right into the sacrum, that flat bone at the bottom of the spine. You can play around with where you place it. It should feel supportive, and It hopefully won't bother your lower back, so make sure you choose the shortest setting on your block to start. So we're in supported bridge right now. So if this feels really, really nice for you today, you can just hang out here, no problem. If you're looking for a deep psoas or a deep hip flexor stretch, we will use the block as support. So if we're doing that, you're gonna straighten your left leg so that the left heel is on the floor and flex your left foot. This might already feel like a deep stretch right at that frontal hip bone, and just inside of the frontal hip bone, deep in there is your psoas, really deep. It attaches to your lower spine and to your inner thigh. So just maybe even picturing that as you press your left foot into the floor and activate your quad on that side, your quadricep muscle or your thigh. And breathe here. Lifting the left arm overhead if you'd like to get a nice overhead stretch, side body stretch. Notice what your right leg is doing. If your knee is bent or kind of starting to fall over to the side, go ahead and keep it active, actively pointing up. And practice breathing into the lower belly. Can you inflate the belly so that it lifts toward the sky as you breathe in? And then bring your hand down if it was overhead and very slowly slide that leg back up. Take a breath here. And then when you're ready, straighten the right leg along the floor, actively being really active with the legs. So pressing the heel into the floor, squeezing the thigh muscle, taking big breaths into the belly. And if and when you're ready, reaching over the head, not necessary, just if you feel like it would be nice for you today. Good, let's take 2 more breaths here. And then bring the arm back down by your side and slide your foot back up. Pause in your supported bridge. And then tuck your tailbone really slowly and lift your buns just enough to remove that block. And you can keep your knees bent here. So let's do a little neck release. Lift your right arm overhead as you turn and look over your left shoulder. And let that happen at the same time. As your hand comes down, your head looks straight up again. Changing sides, lifting the left arm, gazing over the right shoulder. Big breath in. And exhale, bring everything back to center. So make it nice and slow and mindful, connecting your breath to your movement. Looking for that stretch deep in the neck muscle, kind of toward the front. Let's do 1 more on each side. Pausing when you get to center and just sliding those shoulders down your back with the palms up. And just take a moment to integrate that work in the neck. Good. So we're going to come to our sides and press ourselves up for a little more active hip work today. I do believe today might be mostly floor work. We'll save our standing poses for next week. So you'll want to have your blocks with you. And feel free to have a little blanket or a towel under your knee. If your knees are sensitive, you can roll your mat if your knees get sensitive. We'll bring our blocks to the front of our mat. And let's bring our right foot forward. So first we're just stacking the hip over the back knee. Again, right angles in the body here. So my front knee is over my ankle, not in front of it, not yet. And we're going to stretch the quadricep by just bringing the hands to the hip, or for balance, you can use your blocks if you need to. We're going to tuck the tailbone underneath. It's like you're pulling your butt muscle on the left side just underneath your hip a little bit more and scooping your tailbone underneath you. Pull your navel in and keep your chest as open as you can. If you're able to tuck your toes underneath you on that back foot, go ahead and do that. And then with your tailbone tucked under, start to shift forward just a tiny bit, just a little shift forward. It won't look like much, but it will probably feel like a change. You can stay just like this, or lift your left arm up overhead and then lean over to your right just a tad. It's not necessary. It's just if you feel like playing a little bit, exploring how that hip feels. And then bring your hand back down. Okay, so now we'll take our blocks with us, walk them forward and come into more of a lunge. So your foot might stay where it is in the front, or you might walk it forward. It's completely up to you. We're going to look for a nice long stretch in the groin. The foot in the back can be flat on the floor. And so what I'm looking for is the shoulders to be down away from the ears and these blocks to just be an extension of your arms. Breathe here, pull the belly in and engage the pelvic floor muscles. So a little kegel as you sink. So let's do a lizard pose. I'm not really sure why it's called a lizard pose, but it's memorable. So I like to, we'll move the right block away and bring the right hand to the right knee, to the inside of the right knee, and just press the leg open. This is a balancing pose too. So if you want to move your other block to a flatter position and use that to lean down on, to prop you up, you can do that. So we open the leg and gaze over the shoulder, like you're just a lizard in the sun looking back behind you. And so you might come onto the, you probably will come onto the outer edge of that right foot. That's okay. Pull the belly in. You guys look great. Good. Now start to bring your knee back to the center of that right knee and use your blocks as however you need to support you. Ooh, and coming out of that stretch, just shift your hips back. So we're going to get into the hamstring, which we haven't done as much of today. So let's get into that hamstring. It might be like, hello, hi, I'm your hamstring, and I need attention and love. So point your toes to the ceiling and just breathe here. While your right leg is as straight as possible, you can also start to turn your toes inward and outward, internal, external rotation of the whole leg. And that's going to get into different insertion points of your hamstring. And breathe. Keep your back as straight as you can. You can try to shift your hips back as if you're going to sit down in an invisible chair if you want to really lengthen the hamstring even more. Good, and then start to come out of this side. So just stay on your knees and do some hip circles. Just little hip circles, release any tension there. Good. And then we'll switch to the other side. I'll face forward for this one, so let's bring that left foot forward. Keeping the hips stacked over the back knee to start. Everything in right angles. Front knee over the ankle. Starting with this. And then scoop your tailbone underneath you even more. Activate your right buttocks. Maybe you can curl the toes underneath you on the back. It's not necessary, but that can also help to isolate your quadricep muscle. Breathing here. You can stay here, or you can use your block on that left side and lift the right arm up and lean over to the left. But keep your tailbone tucked, so it's easy to lose that activation. So keep the tailbone tucked as you reach. Nice side body stretch, deepen the hip flexors again. Beautiful, bring that arm down. Release your back foot if it was tucked underneath you, and start to use your blocks and come into your lunge, your deep, deep lunge. Adjusting that front foot however you need to. Activating the pelvic floor muscles, pulling the navel in and up. And noticing what you're feeling. Where do you feel an opening, a stretch? Where do you feel sensation? Where can you let go a little bit? Maybe your jaw or your eyebrows. So you can stay here, or you can be the lizard in the sun, maybe straightening or flattening that the block inside that left foot, or you can release that block completely. It really depends on your flexibility. And then bring your left hand to your left, inside of your left knee, and start to open the knee very gently and gaze over your left shoulder. That looks great. You guys look really good. And breathe. So I noticed my belly just let go when I turned. So I'm going to remind myself and you to keep the belly engaged. Shoulders down, away from the ears. Okay, we have a couple more breaths here. Fantastic. Go ahead and bring that knee back to center. Use your blocks to help get you upright again, and then use them as your arm extensions and shift your hips back and lift the toes of your left foot. So right into the back of the leg now. We've done a ton of the front of the leg. So we want to give some attention to the back. Keep lifting your toes, maybe waving the leg from side to side, keeping the heel right where it is. So usually in yoga, traditionally we just breathe in and out through the nose. It helps us to fine-tune our efforts. So if we're breathing really hard and we're not able to breathe in and out through the nose calmly, then we know we're exerting ourselves too much. But often you will hear me breathing out through the mouth. It's really just a way to encourage you guys to keep breathing. And it's also in a pose like this, it helps us to lengthen the breath. And as we lengthen the breath, it helps muscles to let go and release a little bit more. So take a couple more breaths, maybe shifting your hips back a little bit. Good, and now just bringing that foot back and come into a child's pose. Again, let's do a wide-legged child's pose and see how that's feeling. It's a mitzvah to take care of our bodies, to take care of this instrument of divinity that we've been given and gifted. So just taking a minute to thank yourself for tuning up this instrument. Okay, let's go ahead and press ourselves up. And we'll take a seated twist today. So bring the legs out in front of you. What I am going to have you do before we twist is just take soft fists and just do some tapping up and down the outside of the legs. And then the inside of the legs, just stimulating some of the acupressure points in our body, bringing balance and health to the body. I'm going to go ahead and do the outer hips again, outer legs. Good. All right, so bring your right foot close to your bottom. Keep your left leg extended and the foot flexed. You can either keep the foot close like this and just hook that knee and twist over your right shoulder. Or if you'd like to kind of get an outer hip stretch, you can also bring that right foot over the left leg, which is going to give you a little outer hip stretch, as long as that hip doesn't come rolling up off the floor too much. So choose your position and keep the left leg active and the foot flexed. Slide your shoulders away from your ears and open up your chest and prop yourself up nice and tall with that back arm and the back hand. Really deep breaths here to massage the digestive organs. And then slowly unwind the twist on this side and switch sides when you're ready. Unless you have an injury that would prevent you from doing the same thing on this side, go ahead and try to do that, the same setup. And then unwinding your twist here. And take a moment before we set our bodies up for Shavasana. Take a moment to do any other stretches that would feel good for you today. And if you want to go right into Shavasana for some longer rest time, feel free to do that as well. And I'll ring the bell to officially invite you to stillness if you haven't already done that. Begin to allow your muscles to soften. Noticing any sensations in the hips and legs, the places where you've done a lot of work and exploration this morning. And notice if there's any place in your body that could release or let go a little bit more. With every exhale, releasing another section of the body. So exhaling and releasing the head and the shoulders. As you exhale, release the arms and the hands. As you exhale, release the chest and the belly. As you exhale, releasing the hips and the thighs. Exhaling to soften the knees and the lower legs. And exhaling as the feet let go. Exhaling as all of the muscles of the face release. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Respect your body as the receptacle, the messenger, and the instrument of the Spirit. Rabbi Samuel Raphael Hirsch. Invite some deeper breaths into your body now. And recalling your original intention for this time together, just bringing that back into your mind and heart. And noticing, is there a way to bring that quality or intention into the rest of your day, into the rest of your week? And whenever you're ready, you can start to move your body a little bit more and rise up to your seat. Letting your hands rest at your heart. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be loved. May all beings have peace. May it be so. Kenya Hiratsam. Shalom.